All right, guys. So, welcome to the April 22nd live happy hour here with right now Ken Anderson and Dave Lapham. And we're going to have special guests tonight, Zach Taylor, and a few of our participants in our Engage program pop in tonight. We hope everyone's enjoying their time, staying safe. I know everyone's looking forward to a wonderful show tonight. I am going to pass off to Mr. Kenny Anderson, and we're going to get this ball rolling.
Well, thanks, Kevin. I really appreciate that. And I got to tell you that I'm really looking forward to happy hour tonight. I had 20 bales of pine straw delivered today, and I got it done just in time to take a shower and join you guys today. So I must say the Keystone Light is tasting very good tonight, and I can't wait to have happy hour with you. First of all, I want to get to our winners from last week's trivia contests. The first question was, who was the Bengals leader in yards per attempt rushing? Minimum of 100 attempts. Well, Luke in Worthington and Gary in Mainville got that answer correct because the answer was Ken Anderson at 5.6 yards per attempt. Question number 2, staying in the rushing category, is who had the most fumbles in Bengals history? And Max in Cincinnati got that answer correct. It was Boomer Esiason. And I must say the first 4 on the list were all quarterbacks. I was next, followed by Andy Dalton and Jeff Blake. So protect the football. That's what I heard from Paul Brown. I heard it from every coach I ever had. The way that you can get involved in our trivia tonight we're playing for Ken Anderson All-Pro T-shirts and Ken Anderson NFL MVP T-shirts. Send the answers when I give them to you to info@KenAndersonAlliance.org. And if you've got any questions for us tonight, you can kind of get a hold of us, ask a question on YouTube chat. Don't forget our raffle items. You can go ahead and buy raffle tickets and try to win you and a buddy. I'm going to take you up to Dayton, Ohio, play Moraine Country Club. We'll have lunch beforehand, one of the top 150 classic courses in the country, or the one that's really good is Rascal Flats is going to be in town in August. My wife and I, Christy, are going to take you, 4 people, we're going to host you to a VIP backstage appearance or experience at the Rascal Flats concert. Now, we don't just go and park. We go park by Jay DeMarcus's tour bus. That's how we go to this thing. And hopefully things are cleared up by then. If for some reason the concert would have to be canceled, don't fret because I'm going to take the 4 of you to dinner at the precinct, which ain't a bad deal as it is. If you want to get raffle tickets, you can go to karaffle.givesmart.com. You can text KAA raffle to 76278. But right now, this is a big night. It's the night before the draft. The guy that knows more about the Bengals than anybody, probably even most of the coaches, my roommate for a whole bunch of years, Dave Lapham. And Scoops, thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, KA. You're the man.
Well, I don't know about that, but, like me, you were a 3rd-round pick in 1974 out of Syracuse. What was your draft day experience like?
Well, probably very similar to yours. There was no ESPN. There were no cell phones. I mean, there was no draft shows. It was the year I got drafted was the first year of the World Football League. So I'd been drafted by the Birmingham Americans in the 1st round. And they had a draft prior to the NFL draft. So the night of the NFL draft, it took forever for the draft to take place because they were calling guys to see if you'd sign with the World Football League or not before they drafted you. So, it took a long time. And my most vivid memory was gave everybody for the draft purposes a payphone at the end of the hallway for the phone number to call. And I was just standing guard for like 2 hours at this payphone asking guys, hey, I'm really expecting an important call. Can you go downstairs or upstairs the floor to the payphone? You can't be on the phone. If I have to keep it clean for this call. And it was just a payphone call. And I finally get the call and it's Tiger. But before the Bengals had called, the Cleveland Browns called me. And the Cleveland Browns said, we're going to take you at the next pick. I said, next pick? Because I thought the draft was over. I didn't think I got drafted. It was taking so long. I said, next pick. I said, what round are you guys in? Oh, it's early in the 3rd round. And I said, okay. They said, well, we're going to call you right back. So I hang up and I get called back in like 15 seconds. Well, it's Tiger with the Bengals. And he goes, hey, congratulations. He goes, hello. I'm like, hello. And he goes, hello. And I'm like, hey, Cleveland. He goes, what'd you say? I said, hey, Cleveland. He goes, don't you ever say that word again. He goes, this is Cincinnati Bengals. We just took you at the 61st pick of the draft. I'm like, okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
You mentioned it's going to be, that was an unusual draft when we were drafted, and it's going to be an unusual one tomorrow. Normally, you'd be down at Paul Brown Stadium in the media center working the draft. How are you going to watch the draft and follow it and report tomorrow?
Yeah, it's going to be Zoom. We're going to do. There's going to be press conferences after every pick. Zach will have a presser, or the coordinator or the position coach of the player selected, and then the player will be doing a presser by Zoom with everybody. So same type of thing, but all the press conferences and everything will be virtual, just like the draft is. So it's going to be a crazy 3 days for sure.
We're going to take Burrows, right?
We're going to take Burrow. Yeah, there's no question. There's no doubt.
I mean, it's you studied him probably more than I have, but I tell people I never saw him play a bad game.
Kenny, I'll tell you what, it's the cleanest tape I've ever seen out of a single season for a quarterback. And this is a guy that went against the SEC. Every game, he completed over 71% of his passes until the national championship game. Clemson came out with a little unique defense, took them a little bit time to adjust, but he completed like 64%. He completed 76% on the season. And 7 of the opponents on the 15 wins that he had were top 10 when he played them. And he, honestly, there's a lot of similarities with you, my man. His accuracy, no, sir, his accuracy is uncanny. He throws guys open. He throws with the anticipation. He played basketball. He was like, all state basketball and football player. And you went to Augustana with a hoop deal. Originally, you and Dan Issel, obviously great players in high school. You were a great basketball player. Joe Burrow in the Peach Bowl, they had a 3-point shooting contest against Oklahoma, and LSU's getting buried. Joe Burrow goes 6 for 6 from 3-point land to win it for LSU Tigers in the three. So this guy he's accurate in terms of throwing the football, shooting the basketball. He just has that, like you, that ability to throw things so accurately. I remember the football camp we worked at in the summer. You'd say, I'd be 25 yards away from you. You'd say, I'm hitting your right shoulder. Boom. Hit my right shoulder. I'm hitting your belly button. Boom. Hit the belly. I mean, from significant distance, like how the hell he hits those pinpoint, spots like that, throw those tight spots is unbelievable.
That was one of the great summers. It was the offense-defense camp at Fairfield University in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Right.
You brought your son Dave. I brought my son Matt. That was a fun time.
That was a real fun time. We were down at Cape Cod. You guys came down there. We rolled up from Cape Cod and had a good time. That was a great experience. That was a heck of a football camp they ran, and you did a great job that day, my man.
If that was the first time you took me cohogging.
Yeah, that's right. Dig those quahogs, man.
Oh.
Get those. It's in that clam family. We have made some nice quahog chowder. That dog will hunt all day.
Now, Dave, I think this is a big draft for the Bengals. They were more active than normal in free agency. I think they really improved the roster. We'll talk about that, in a minute. But I was kind of doing some researches from the last draft classes, and we really haven't got a lot of production from a lot of players in the last several years. I mean, I think you got to go back to 2017 when Joe Mixon made a big splash as a rookie, played a significant role.
Right.
The year before that, Tyler Boyd did some nice things. The year before that, it was a couple of tight ends, Tyler Croft and Uzama. Then it was Jeremy Hill before that. And then, before you got really 3 guys, it was 2013 with Eifert and Giovanni Bernard and Rex Burkhead. I mean, I think we got to hit on some more draft picks this year.
I agree with you, K.A. And the thing is, having the first pick every round should help. Because, the 33rd pick, first pick in the second round is like a late one. First pick, the next pick in the third round, the 65th pick is like a late 2. So, I'm hoping it's like a White Castle draft, a bunch of sliders, and just order up a different slider some guy slides out of the round where they had them on their board. Everybody has their board and everybody's board is different. But if you had whoever the best player is, you had him number 15 to 18 on your board. He's there at 33. You got to take him, so I think they're going to really benefit by that. And I think they've only got 7 draft picks right now, but my feeling is It's not necessarily a great year with the coronavirus to have 12 picks, 13 picks like the Patriots do. The Dolphins have 14. You're not going to have, OTAs, mini camps. You might not have training camp. All those, how are you going to evaluate all those draft picks? The Bengals have 7, and they're the cream of the crop, the highest picks. They got their first 4 picks are 97 is the highest. They have 4 of the top 100, 4 of the top 97 players in the country. I'd like to see him trade back maybe a couple of times and get like 9 draft choices. That'd be a good number. You don't need to have, 10, 12, 14 draft picks this year. I don't think. It's going to be interesting though. But you're right. They have to put their bat on the ball, and Joe Burrow's a good start. There's no doubt.
Now, do you see any scenario that you've heard of that they could get an offer where they would trade that first pick?
I don't think they're going to trade it, Kenny. I think the only team that has the draft capital to do it is Miami with 3 first-round draft picks this year that they've got. So, would they offer all 3 of their first-round draft picks? If they did, to me, that would just validate what I'm thinking about Joe Burrow. If you have a team willing to offer you 3 first-round picks, you have to think about it. And how big a disparity do you think there is between Joe Burrow, and the next quarterback or the quarterback after that, depending on how far back you'd have to go? You'd have to go back to number 5. Would you be, happy with Herbert? Would you be happy with Tua? If Joe Burrow's your guy, you get validation that people think a lot of Joe Burrow. Go ahead, don't make it too complicated. Pick him, and hopefully he's your guy for the next 10 or 15 years.
And as you said, Miami's the only one that's got draft capital to do it. But really, they can't afford to give up the draft choices. They were tanking for Tua early in the season. They got rid of so many players that if they give rid of more draft choices, they can get them, but they've got nobody to surround them with.
No, yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. That was their plan, and they're trying to fulfill, their plan. They basically, they started off 0-7 and then finished the season pretty strong. They won 5 games down the stretch. 5 out of the 9 remaining games they won. So you got to tip your cap to them. But yeah, I just don't see the Bengals making that move. The interesting thing, Kenny, is going to be, Andy Dalton. We both have a tremendous amount of respect for him, but he's in a situation now where there's musical chairs have stopped. There's more quarterbacks than chairs left, and you got 2 number 1 picks in the draft, Cam Newton, Jameis Winston out there that people can sign for no draft compensation, and they can redo a contract. Well, if you trade for Andy, you're giving up draft capital. Andy's got a $17.7 million contract you inherit. Now they can redo the contract, obviously, but here's what I was thinking, though, when the Gronkowski deal went down, Kay. Tell me what you think of this. The Patriots got a 4th-round pick to allow Gronkowski to go down there to Tampa Bay. And so they got a 4th-round pick that for nothing, really, because Gronk wasn't going to play for the Patriots.
Right.
So once Tom Brady goes down there, talks Gronk, they talk, and now it's Gronk in the 7th for a 4th. And that 4th-round pick is free money. What if they say to the Bengals, hey, this 4th-round pick that cost us nothing, how about if we trade this 4th-round pick for Andy Dalton? I could see Bill Belichick potentially doing that. That 4th-round pick, maybe you'd hope you would have done a little better, but at this point, you get a 4th-round pick for Andy Dalton in this draft where there's value at wide receiver, every single round. You might still be able to get a quality linebacker, a quality offensive lineman. I'd make that trade.
Well, I tell you what, Dave, if there's anybody that knows what's going to go on tomorrow night, it's the head coach of the Bengals, and he's with us now. Coach Zach Taylor. Hey, I know that everybody in the world wants you tonight, and just thanks for carving out a little time for us.
Of course, you bet, man. I'm sorry I missed Lap's thoughts on what we should do during the draft.
Yeah,
but I missed it.
No, Coach. Here. I was just thinking about this after the Gronk trade. What if the Patriots have a free 4th-round pick now? Gronk wasn't going to play for them. They end up with a 4th-round pick. What if Bill Belichick calls you guys and says, "Hey, this 4th-round pick we got from Tampa Bay, which is the middle of the 4th round. What are you thinking about Andy Dalton? Would you make a trade for us, Andy Dalton, with that 4th-round pick?" That hit me last night when that trade went down. I'm like, man, there's another bit of capital the Patriots could maybe incorporate here a little bit on draft day.
So I
hear you.
I'll let you speculate.
And Coach, I want to start off with this. more than usual, the Bengals have been very active in the free agency market this offseason. I think you've really improved your team. Kind of take us through that process, how it all went.
Well, we knew as soon as the season ended, we targeted areas we needed to improve and thought we could help ourselves in free agency. Everybody on the building has been on the same page every step of the way. This offseason was certainly a lot different from last offseason just because we all got in here so late. It was hard to get caught up on the draft and free agency and have some well thought out opinions on the coaching side of things. And then when you go through a full season, you get a chance to be around your players, how they handle the scheme, areas we think we can improve. You really got a chance to regroup when the season ended and go attack the players we thought we could get in free agency that would help us. And I'll be honest, all the players we penciled in to go get, we got them. And so it worked out really well.
It's really kind of interesting because, like I said, the Bengals haven't historically been, big players in the free agency market. It was very encouraging that I think you've got a lot of input with some people high up in the organization to get that done.
Well, on the flip side of things, the Bengals have always been into paying players that they drafted and have put in the time here in the organization, and the money has been spent towards those guys. And that's certainly a great recruiting tool for the guys we want to bring in, is that we have a history of paying our own players. And if you're an NFL player, wouldn't you want it that way? You get to go to an organization and they're going to invest in you. And this is just one of those years where it worked out to where we had some money and we could go get some other guys to help us win. And you never know, it may not be that way every single year, but that's just the way it shook out this year.
You spent $150 million in free agency, coach, and that's a significant number. 8 free agents, 5 could be defensive starters, another starter potentially at the right guard position. You have 6 of your 8 free agents potentially could, be getting a lot of snaps for you. And they all came from winning programs. Every free agent came from a playoff team, and they're like 4th, 5th year in the league. They just finished their first contract. It's not like they're 32 years old hanging on for dear life. I mean, the fact that you targeted those guys with those 2 qualifications, was that intentional?
The winning wasn't exactly what we went out and targeted, but certainly they came from teams that they helped become better, and they made those around them better. And so that's a great byproduct of just signing these guys that all were on playoff teams. They're all used to what that standard is of how you win and the work you got to put in. And we do look forward to that carrying over into our organization as well, and we all had the season we know that we had last year. And it's important that our players know what work's cut out for them. Now we had a chance to add some players that have recently experienced the success that we want to taste. And so it's going to be fun to see it all come together. We got a lot of work to do to make sure that we can still find ways to orchestrate that camaraderie and the chemistry that's going to be necessary for us to have that type of year. But I know that we're looking forward to the challenge.
I think those players saw a lot what I saw. You and I had a conversation before Friday's practice in London. Yep. And we were standing on the sidelines, and I said, I know the record isn't what you want it to be, but I could see from the outside things going in the right direction. And I think a lot of people see that, and nobody's happy with a 2-14 record. But I think there is encouragement with what happened last year.
There's no doubt. And we get a chance now to fine tune everything. And just before I hopped on here, I was going through some cut-ups we're going to be showing our guys on Monday. The first time we get a chance to meet with them. And so it's just so fun now. You get to go back and slowly make the corrections and the improvements that we need to make from last year. And once those guys nail down the details, now develop that killer instinct that we're going to need to have here late in games that we didn't necessarily have last year. And so it's all exciting. I get really fired up just talking about it, thinking about it. And, again, like I said, we get a chance to be around our guys on Monday for the first time. And that's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you guys help me out with a little bit of Bengals history right now. Okay. I'm going to give our first trivia question for the night, and the first 2 correct answers are going to win Ken Anderson All-Pro T-shirts. So you got to send your name, address, your T-shirt size with the correct answer to info@KenAndersonAlliance.org. But here's the question for tonight. The first one. Which Bengals draft class produced the most first-team All-Pros? Now, Anthony Munoz in 1980 only counts for 1. He was 9 times a first-team All-Pro, but he only counts for 1 for that draft class. Now, I used the AP All-Pro statistics. So you guys got any ideas with that? Scoops, you should know this.
The first, with the most all pros.
First team All-Pros. First team.
First team all pros. Wow. Let's see. I guess you'd have to give us a decade.
Huh?
Give us a decade.
60s.
In the 60s, really? Wow. So that's 68 or 69. There's only 2 years.
Oh, I knew you were sharp, Lapham. That's why you ran things on the offensive line.
Oh man, who was it? 69? The first year of the franchise existence?
The first year they had 2 first-team All-Pros. It was Bob Trumpy and Paul Robinson.
Wow, how about that?
There's no other draft class. I just told now that everybody's going to win a T-shirt now.
Yeah, right. I was wondering.
But no other draft class had more than 1.
All right. Well, so do the other question and don't do the answer and give 2 T-shirts out to 2 winners.
Okay. Well, I can do that too. So the next question is, okay, Leslie's not going to be happy because I've already kind of pre-programmed these.
Oh.
What Bengal has been to the most Pro Bowls without being a first team All-Pro?
Ooh. That's an interesting one. That's a good one.
He's playing for you, Coach Taylor.
I can't answer, can I? Do I ruin it?
Well, you can give an opinion. I'm not going to say if it's correct.
Okay. So phrase that one more time. He's been in the most Pro Bowls without being All-Pro.
Most Pro Bowls without being a first team All-Pro.
Playing for me. Andy or Carlos?
No.
AJ or Gino?
Pardon me?
AJ or Gino?
I would have thought for sure one of those guys were first team All-Pros.
Gino's not eligible because he was a first team All-Pro.
Right.
So I'm going to let the fans stew on that one. But, Coach, you were talking about, tomorrow or Monday's the first time you can get with your guys. How are you going to handle this off season? Facilities are closed. You've already self-evaluated, things that you'd like to do differently. And how are you going to coordinate all this?
So picture this right here with 100 more people crammed onto the screen. That'll be the first team meeting,
right?
On Monday morning, and we'll do that every day for about 5 minutes to start the day, to get everybody on Zoom, loaded up, and have a little bit of fun with it. And then we'll actually open it up a couple minutes before the meeting starts to kind of do our best to create a locker room experience for the players. So the coaches won't join it until the minute that it starts. But in the time before that, we're going to encourage the guys to all log on and kind of try to recreate what a locker room feels like a little bit, and kind of all that chatter that they have. Then from there, we'll break into position meetings, and we'll film a lot of things beforehand that will be loaded on their iPad that they can watch on their own time. And then the position coaches will go through during that meeting and detail the things that they've seen. So we got to be creative with it. You got to keep their focus at times. It can be. I know I'm a millennial to an extent, so I can lose my focus in situations like this over a long period of time. So we know that we got to be creative and do things to keep their attention and make sure that we get the most out of these first couple of weeks that we get virtually.
Coach, we're going to do something a little bit different right now, Dave. Excuse me, Dave, for interrupting, but I'm going to go back to our executive director, Kevin Potts, that we have a lot of engaged programs that we're doing virtually. And I think we've got one of our participants, Kevin, that might have a question for Coach or Dave.
We do, Kenny. Thank you. So our Engage program has 218 participants, and Zach and Dave, I have one of them here with me now, Carissa Buchanan, and she has a question for you guys. Carissa, go ahead.
I have a question. Is AJ Green coming back?
Yeah, so we franchise AJ, gave him the franchise tag, so he'll be here another year at least. And I'm looking forward to coaching AJ really for the first time, so there you go. I need one of those for my house too. You obviously got the better connections than I got.
I know. Carissa is a great Bengals fan and a loyal supporter and participant with the Ken Anderson Alliance. You got
Kenny, I could follow up on that question. It's an interesting point because it looks like there's 3 pots, 3 buckets, however you want to put it, of how this team is going to look so different from last year. A bunch of different starters. Free agency, we already talked about 5 potential new defensive starters, and then 1 offensive at the guard position. Injured players. AJ Green didn't play a snap. Jonah Williams didn't play a snap. Sample was limited by injury. John Ross was limited by injury. So, the injured veteran players coming back, that's going to be a different look. And then you start throwing draft picks in there. You could have as many as more than 11 of your 22 starters last year, might be even closer to 13, 14, different than what they were last year. I mean, it's a serious overhaul going on, isn't it, Coach?
There's no doubt. We get some reinforcements from some guys we were counting on this time last spring, and it just, for a lot of different reasons, it didn't work out. So that is, that's one way we looked at it in free agency and in the draft, and that we're adding a number 1 receiver basically through free agency, because we didn't have AJ last year. And so
Right.
You can look at, hey, we just added a number 1 receiver, and we added our first-round pick left tackle that we didn't get a chance to have last year. So however you want to look at it, we're certainly encouraged by the future of what our team's going to look like. Again, we can't just say, hey, on paper, it looks perfect. Let's just go play ball. We got a lot of work we do, and we got a lot of improvements we got to make.
Now, Coach, obviously with the first pick, you can have whoever you want. But when it comes to the other picks, what's the process? I know when I was coaching and, before we're getting ready to pick, and there may be 5 picks ahead of us, we might put 6 players on the board, kind of rate them, talk about them, and we know that we're going to get one of them. Well,
Right.
What's the process like in your draft?
Well, we've had a chance to do that because you pick 33, and so you can have a pretty good guess of potentially the first 32 guys off the board and have these conversations now as opposed to having them on the clock. And so Duke Tobin and his staff, they do a great job of preparing that, putting us through scenarios. But like you said, as the draft goes on in the later rounds, you do have those conversations when you're about 10 picks away of, okay, here's 8 guys that we like. How do we want to slot them at this point? For the most part, we've had those conversations, but depending on what positions we've already taken during the draft before that, that may change your approach a little bit. So I think that would probably be a fun fan experience if they got a chance to be in those war rooms during the 30 minutes leading up to your 4th round pick, 5th round pick, and seeing what those conversations look like. It's usually, pretty intense sometimes. And there's probably a lot of things that fans would find pretty entertaining.
No war room now. You're at your house.
Yeah,
Mike's at his house, Duke's at his house. You feel comfortable with this whole process?
I do, just because we've been doing it for 3 weeks now. And so I think that's just become the norm for us. It'd be weird to be in a room with a bunch of people having a normal conversation. So we just do it on the screen. We got a good plan in place. We got a staff that's very flexible and can adapt very easily. So we're ready for it. We're excited for it.
Coach, virtual draft, virtual installation. I mean, all that I think can be handled. The thing that is, I guess, not most worrisome, but a big factor is right after the draft, veteran OTAs, mini camps, that sort of thing were to take place. And then like May 9th, I think the rookies that you drafted could have joined. Without being able to get on the field and meet teammates in terms of timing things up, getting a rhythm, being on the football field, it's hard to do that virtually. Is that maybe one of the biggest things that is going to be tough to adjust to without having that opportunity?
Yeah, our guys are going to have to be creative and manufacture ways to, as best they can, replicate those reps. But the bottom line is we're not going to come out of the offseason making any excuses about a lack of offseason and we're off to a sluggish, that's going to be unacceptable on our end. So again, we'll be creative as players and coaches to try to do our best to make sure that we hit the ground running the first day we are able to practice. Right now, the earliest they're telling us would be May 18th. So we're going to be virtual up to that May 18th date. You never know, that could get pushed back, but right now those are the facts that have been laid out for us.
Before you go, Coach, Kevin, can we bring Carissa back in? Carissa, got any other questions you'd like to ask Dave or Coach?
No.
Okay, well, thank you for being with us. Like I said, I love what you've got in the background. What jersey do you have on?
AJ.
Hey,
There you go.
Or
way
she
to
does.
go, girl. Well, thank you for being with us. And Coach, I know you're the most popular guy in Cincinnati now on radio and television shows. I want to thank you so much for carving out a little time to be with us. And like I say, it's exciting time, the number 1 pick. And Joe Burrows looks like a good fit, doesn't he?
Well, it'll be fun to see how it shakes out tomorrow, but I appreciate you having me on and I'm glad to be here.
I can't wait, Coach, to come up and watch a live practice out on the grass at Paul Brown Stadium.
That's right.
Here's my thing. We got Zach Taylor, quarterback, Ken Anderson, quarterback, Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon, the Joe Show. Burrow and Mixon, the Joe Show. Let's do it, Joe Show.
Hey,
All right.
thanks, Coach. I appreciate
Thanks,
it much for being with us.
You bet.
All right, Dave, last week I kind of took the people on stories. I got us up to 1975. Paul Brown retires. Bill Johnson is the head coach. Talk to me about your kind of memories of that transition and of the 76 season.
Yeah, the 75 season, the way that ended, we had a good football team. We were 11-3, and the Pittsburgh Steelers won the division at 12-2, and they beat us a couple of times. We lost to the Raiders, had a good comeback, but we lose 31-28. Paul Brown retires, and Tiger Johnson takes over, and 14-game season back then. We finished 10-4 with Tiger his first year and don't make the playoffs, which was unbelievable. But Tiger, I have all the respect in the world for Tiger Johnson. He was my first line coach in the NFL. Loved the guy, and Paul Brown had made a commitment to Tiger that Tiger was going to be the guy. And a lot of people, second guess football history, like, oh, well, he didn't go with Bill Walsh, went with Bill Johnson. What a mistake. But Paul Brown being a man of his word. And, we had a good football team. We beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, had to beat them to stay alive. And then we go down to Houston and lose to the Oilers and in a close football game, just can't quite get it done. And the Pittsburgh Steelers send them all these, leather attaché cases and everything as Christmas presents. But I mean, those 2 years, 11-3 and 10-4, we were a pretty good football team, just could not quite get over the top, in terms of winning that playoff game on the road in Oakland, a tough place to play, and played them, off their feet. We just lose a close game. And then the disappointment of the year after was tough.
Now, my recollection, Dave, is that I thought Tiger was the most ready to be a head coach.
Yep.
I don't know. Bill was a great coach. I think maybe he was a little bit too close to the players, at time. And I thought the correct decision was made.
Yeah. And I know that, Tiger had turned down a couple of head coaching opportunities with the San Francisco 49ers. I can't remember what the other one was, but Tiger had been asked, and he turned it down because Paul Brown had said to him, "You're the guy. When I step aside, you're the guy." And Tiger knew Paul was a man of his word, and Paul was a man of his word, and he wasn't going to, change that. And I agree with you, Kenny. I think he felt comfortable, with the decision that he had made. He thought the world of Tiger, and unfortunately, the biggest thing that unfortunately that hurt Tiger was when you had the unfortunate injury and broke your hand. There's no control in those kind of things. I mean, there's 100% injury risk to every player, every snap. And, we lose you and you try to come back quicker than anybody could possibly try to come back from a broken hand because of your respect for Tiger. And, man, that whole thing was unfortunate. I mean, it's crazy how, his coaching career kind of hinged on, up in Green Bay, your follow through hitting that helmet of an opponent player and you break your hand, and it broke everybody, not just your hand.
Yeah, I'm going to tell one story about us, Dave, and I'm going to let you go. I know, you've got a ton of radio shows to do tonight all over the country with mock drafts, but we go to the Super Bowl in 1981 season. We're up in Pontiac, Michigan, and Dave and I were roommates forever. And we go up there and we go into the room and looking around, we open the door and we see kind of a desk and that, and a couch, and we don't see a bed. I go, "I'm MVP of the league. We got a suite." I said, "This is going to be great." And we're opening the doors to try to, where's the bedroom at? And all the doors are locked. All we had was a pull down bed out of the wall that was a double bed. And I said, I like you a lot, Dave, but I'm not sleeping with you for the rest of the week.
I'll tell you what, though, would have been a great story if I did with the MVP, sleep with the MVP for a week up in Pontiac. That would have been unbelievable. And I'll tell you what, the season you had was remarkable. I mean, MVP, that 1981 season, I mean, and another year that you go through an entire season completing 70% of your passes in the National Football League, win NFL passing titles 2 different decades back to back in the 70s and 80s. I know you're my roommate. I know I'm prejudiced, but come on, man. This guy is a Hall of Famer. Get it done, Canton, Ohio. What the heck is wrong with everybody?
Well, thank you much, partner. I really appreciate it. And thank you for carving out some time for us tonight. And I know the rest of your night is going to be really busy, but I can't thank you enough.
Enjoyed it tremendously. Thanks, Kay.
All right, we'll talk to you later, Dave. And, you know, one story before I bring Kevin back in about that 1976 season. You know, Dave was talking about, you know, we had to beat Pittsburgh in Cincinnati. The next to the last game of the year was our last home game. And then we had to beat Houston in Houston to go to the playoffs. So my roommate at that time was John Shinners, an offensive lineman. You know, he went to Xavier, was the #1 pick of the New Orleans Saints, and ended up in Cincinnati. And he and I were roommates, and he was going to retire after that season. And he always had dinner downtown the night before the game at Le Normandy restaurant. If those people in Cincinnati remember, that was kind of below the Masonette. And so he said, Kenny, it's my last home. You got to come down for dinner. So I went down there to meet him for dinner, and I got there a little bit early. So I had a couple beers, and John's late, so a couple more guys come in. We have a couple more beers and kind of getting ready to go to the table to eat. And John Brody was doing the game for NBC and had a couple more beers and a few at dinner. And I must say, I felt a little bit tipsy. And we get over to the hotel. We walked to the Neville and Hilton, and luckily we had no meetings at night because most of our coaches were out scouting. And so we just checked in, went up to the room, and John had a few more beers up in the room for us. And I remember waking up the next morning, all of a sudden it's below zero. And I go, oh my gosh, what did I do? Well, I happened to go out and throw for over 300 yards, and we beat the Steelers by 7. We went down to Houston the night before for the next week, and we got beat. The night before the game, I did not have a beer. So there's a moral of the story somewhere, and I'm not sure what it is, but I know we didn't go to the playoffs. Kevin, I want to bring you back in again to talk a little bit about our engaged programs and why they're so important, especially now.
Yeah, well, Ken, I appreciate it. So, you know, one of the things that we're all probably feeling right now, and we're starting to notice, you know, we're all kind of stuck at home. We're in isolation. And for us, it's been, you know, a 6-8 week process where we've been doing something we're not used to. We're not able to get out. We're not able to get out and engage and do things with our friends and our family like we used to, go to restaurants even, or go to movies, anything like that. Well, you know, that is sometimes commonplace for a lot of adults with disabilities. They are stuck in their homes sometimes, and they don't get to get out and be social and do a lot of things. And our Engage program at KAA is very impactful in that area. We offer you know, over 22 outings monthly for 218 participants to get out and do everything from Cyclones games to Bengals games, golf, mini golf, trivia nights, restaurants, all kinds of fun things, movies, theater, concerts, and et cetera. And, you know, all those are shut down right now. So we're all kind of feeling that impact. But one thing our program does wonderfully is, you know, just in a regular day, we help remove that isolation and help resolve that for a lot of our participants in the program. Earlier tonight, we talked with Carissa, who's one of our participants, and she, you know, had a great question about AJ, her favorite player, obviously. And but we were unable to get Beth online with us live tonight. But we have a great message from someone that I wanted to share really quick about you know, KAA and what we do, and, you know, really what I'm going to share that with us right now.
What did Captain Picard say when the Enterprise was going anywhere? More importantly, what Ken Anderson Group helps with the loneliness and isolation of people with disabilities that is so similar to what everyone is going through now. If you guessed engaged, you're right. And that's exactly what you need to do. Get a raffle ticket or make a donation to the Ken Anderson Alliance. Thank you. Live long and prosper.
So Kenny, that message kind of cracks me up for any of the Trekkies out there. But, you know, our programming is phenomenal. And we have a lot of partners in the community as well. You know, we partner with Down Syndrome Association of Greater Cincinnati, Autism Society, with RAC, Stepping Stones, so many different organizations, and we all are offering programming in the community. And during this time right now, we're having to go virtual. And our virtual programming, including these happy hours, is extremely important to the individuals that we support.
And I know that, before this all hit, Gio does a great job of coordinating that for our staff. But, we had over 20 play programs a month servicing over 200 adults in the greater Cincinnati area. And I know how much they look forward to them, because when Gio puts the they sign up in a hurry and they fill up. So I want to thank everybody for how hard they work, because those are just important to the people that we serve.
They're extremely important. And, just that opportunity to get out and be a part of the community. And, Gio, shout out to her. She does an awesome job with it. And we greatly appreciate all of her help there. One of the fun things, Ken, that we're doing tomorrow, one of our virtual programming offerings is Crafting with KAA. It's on our Facebook page. It's tomorrow at 2:00. And one of our own, Kate Fopma, is going to teach people how to make a face mask out of a sock. So that will be pretty interesting.
Yeah, try to find a face mask now. Sometimes I get a little nervous that the grocery stores may require you to wear a face mask inside, and we're going to have to work on getting some of those. I can make sure I tune in to 2:00 for that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I just can't thank, our staff enough for the great job that they do. Kevin, you're a great leader as our executive director. And we've got Leslie and Teresa and Kate and Michael and Becca and Lynn and, the list, and Emily, and the list kind of goes on and how much fun it is to be a part of this. I think the next thing I'd kind of like to get to is, so I told you about the 76 season a little bit. Now I'm going to go to 77. That was kind of a unique season for me. I got a thigh bruise early in the year on my right thigh, and I would have to go and I would get 100 cc's of blood drained on Monday and Fridays for me to play. And so I did that for about a month, and we're getting ready to play the New York Giants in Cincinnati, and it turned extremely cold overnight. And all of a sudden I wake up and I can hardly walk. And I walk down to our pregame meal, and I go up to the head coach, Bill Johnson, and say, "Coach, I don't know if I can play today. My leg is killing me." And he goes, "Well, Kenny, you've been playing on it for a month." And I said, "I know, Coach, but today I can't walk." He goes, "Go down and stick your leg in a whirlpool and see what you think." So I went down early and stuck my leg in the whirlpool at the stadium and went out to warm up. And he goes, "What do you think?" And I says, "I think I can go a quarter." So the first time we had the ball, my first pass was a touchdown pass. We're up 7-0. We get the ball back. My next pass is a touchdown. We're up 14-0. Get the ball back. My third pass goes for a touchdown. So I'm 3 for 3 with 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. And now it starts to snow. And I come off the sideline at the end of the first quarter. He goes, "Can you hand off?" And I said, "Yes." So I played the whole second quarter and did not throw a pass, handed off. It was 21-0. Now we've got about 3 inches of snow on the field at halftime. And we go into the locker room. Snow plows are coming out to clear off the field. And Mike Brown calls down from the press box, "Get the snow plows off the field. Our quarterback's got a bad leg. They can't catch us in the snow." So we went out the second half, and I threw 2 passes the second half, one for a touchdown, and we won 28-0. So on the day of the best game I ever had, 4 for 5 for 4 touchdowns as we beat the New York Giants. Later on, it was kind of a unique season. We finished 8-6 that year. We were second in the AFC Central behind the Steelers once again, but we're playing Atlanta at home, and we're down in the red zone, and we're down about the 10-yard line, and we had a protection called where the tight end on the right blocks, and I've got 3 receivers to the left, and we've got a combination route. So I know the only thing I've got to worry about on the right side is the safety blitz. And so the safety is not coming. So I'm trying to figure out what's happening on the left side with the combination. And the next thing you know, somebody on the Falcons puts their helmet under my chin, and I'm laying on the ground semi-conscious. I don't remember this. Lapham is standing over me, and he says, "All I'm saying is my teeth are gone. My teeth are gone." Well, luckily it was right before half, and we were right at the end zone near our locker room, and they kind of dragged me into the locker room, and I'm sitting on or laying on the training table, and our offensive coordinator Boyd Dollar comes down and says, "Kenny, can you go the second half?" And I said, "Go the second half. I can't get off the table." Well, I did not play that second half, but and Don Bass, who happened to be the tight end, that instead of blocking his man that hit me, he released on a pass. So I mean, that's not really a good deal. So the next week we're playing, and we had a little play where we split the tight end out to the left, and he was going to run a slant route. And it's the only time I ever did this in my career. But I threw the slant high and hard to him, and he went up to get it with his hands over his head, and the defensive back lays him out. As he's lying there on the ground, I stood over him and says, "That makes up for missing the block last week." So there are paybacks every once in a while, when you're playing. Kevin, I want to kind of get back a little bit to some of the things that we're doing, with the Ken Anderson Alliance. We've talked a little bit about our Engage programs, but our work programs are so important now. And I know one of the things we've got is our aquaponics venture up and running. And, right now, we've got our O2 farms over in Cheviot producing lettuce. Unfortunately, a lot of places that we distribute it to are closed, but we have curbside service twice a week. If you want the freshest lettuce in town, how do we get that?
All right. Well, yeah. So our work program is up and running. It's in Cheviot, and it's at 3420 Glenmore. It is in the back of the parking lot for Vineyard West Side. So if you know where that's at, go in, pull into the parking lot, and go to the back, and you'll see the Hope Center, and that houses our O2 Urban Farms program. And we have lettuce for sale right now, curbside. We're doing it on Tuesdays and Fridays right now from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We take cash and credit cards there. It comes in 3-ounce packages, and we've had rave reviews over the quality of our lettuce. A lot of people come out and take part in that. But one of the things people are worried about right now is getting out into the grocery stores and getting this type of product in those settings. And then we've set it up wonderfully where they can just pull in the parking lot, pull up, and pick up however much lettuce they need for themselves or their family. And it's a great venture. And one of the nice things about it, Ken, is it supports our work program where we employ adults with disabilities. And, we pay a very fair wage, much higher than minimum wage, but we also provide job training skills, and we provide opportunities for adults to get these marketable trainings that they need to be able to not only be employed at our farm, but also be employed out in the community at large.
And I want to remind people, if you got a question that you'd like to ask me, you can go to YouTube chat and kind of send in your question, and Kevin will make sure that I'm aware of it. Also, don't forget about buying our raffle tickets. I'm going to take you and a friend up to Moraine Country Club, Dayton, Ohio, to play golf. We're going to have lunch, play golf, come back to town, one of the top 150 classic golf courses in the country. Or you can buy raffle tickets for Christy and I hosting you to a backstage VIP experience at the Rascal Flatts concert in August. Literally, we're going to drive all the way through the parking lots right up next to Jay DeMarcus's tour bus and go in and meet and greets, and they do a little acoustic set. We'll have great seats. In fact, it may not even be a seat. It may be just standing right up next to the stage as we watch that concert. So make sure that you go and get your raffle tickets right now. KAAraffle.givesmart.com, or you can text KAA raffle to 76278, or you can always go to the KenAndersonAlliance.org website and purchase things there. And, I think the big reason, Kevin, that one of the things is whether you buy the raffle tickets or would just like to make a donation, that we have a friend that has offered to match any donations this month while we're having our virtual happy hours up to $20,000. So now's the time to do it.
Yep, it's a huge opportunity for us to really maximize on donations, and that will be throughout the duration of our raffle and happy hours.
And one of the things I'm so excited about what's happening is next week we've got another great happy hour. I've got my next door neighbor growing up in Batavia, Illinois, happened to be a guy named Dan Issel. If you're from Kentucky, you know who he is. He's an All-American basketball player at the University of Kentucky who went on to have a great pro career. Started with the Kentucky Colonels in the ABA, finished with the Denver Nuggets, happened to end up in the NBA Hall of Fame. He's going to be with us along with Doug Flynn. So, Kevin, you got a question for us?
I do. Ken, I've got a great question that came in. One of the questions is, Ken, how did you start the Ken Anderson Alliance and why? They say that we love this organization and our son takes part in it. It is coming from Margie Moore.
Well, it was several years ago. Christy and I have a nephew that's severely autistic. He was living at home and he happened to have bouts of violence. And, I happened to witness him attack his father one day, and it was not a pleasant sight. And somehow I ended up in between them to kind of diffuse it. And of course, he had no control over it. And moments later, he's so sorry. And then one morning he went after his mother, and luckily, my brother-in-law was there to diffuse it, but they realized he couldn't live at home anymore. And he was, a teenager at that point in time, and went to a facility down in Pedro, Ohio. And it was 10 cabins, 10 boys in each cabin. And he really did well. And I think part of it was just the situation that he was in. And I remember we go down for a visit, and he was so excited to come in and, Uncle Kenny and Christy and meet the cooks. He loved the cooks, in his cabin. And so we started thinking that, geez, if we could have a community where he could live safely and up to the fullest potential, wouldn't that be great? And so we were working our way through that, and we had great support. And finally, the mayor of Cincinnati calls me one day and says, Kenny, you need to meet this other group of Down syndrome parents that want to do the same thing that you're doing. And the group happened to be called Lighthouse Landing. And we met, and there was great synergy between us. And we decided that we would merge and form the Ken Anderson Alliance. And so that happened about 3 years ago. And since then, we've made great strides. And in fact, Kevin, we've purchased 22 acres in Springfield Township. And can you tell us about the plans for our community?
Yeah, I can. So our community is in Springfield Township. We are in the process of finalizing some due diligence there, and we are going to be providing housing for 174 people there throughout apartments, condos, townhomes. And then it's also going to offer a community center, which is a lot like a YMCA, where individuals can come for workouts, for a cafe, for a movie theater, for relaxation rooms, for a gaming room, for online and virtual gaming, for all kinds of just different activities and trainings as well. And then we'll be housing the Ken Anderson Alliance offices there, and we're going to be offering office space to a lot of our partners to come there as well. And then we're going to have a work training center on site where we do our O2 Urban Farms at a much larger scale than we currently do. And we offer other job skills, partnering with MetScore, Easter Seals, a number of organizations where we can offer some really good job skill training there for people. And then in addition to that, we have some beautiful outdoor green spaces, and we're going to have some sports fields, of course, right? We could not do this without putting in something for activity. So we're going to have some really great opportunities there. And one of the biggest things about this community, Ken, it's more than housing, it's more than work training. It's more than these community centers and these social opportunities. What we're doing is we're creating and really showcasing a model where shared supports can help us to provide services in a much better quality fashion, and honestly, much more affordably. And utilizing these shared services, we can really be successful in improving the quality of life for a lot of the individuals with disabilities that we serve.
And I think, every one of those individuals has different levels of where they're at. And I think one of the exciting things is that our goal is, at least one of my goals is to let them live their lives to the fullest that they can. And it's going to be a different level for anybody else. And I know I'm so excited to get my nephew out in our community.
Yes. It's going to be somewhere that, there's been so many communities, that you can go to that, they do provide service, but it's not something that necessarily the individuals, we think institutional back in the days and stuff like that, but they're not places where individuals maybe were proud to live. But this is going to be a community where, not only the individuals we support can live and be very, very proud of the homes they live in, but 25% of our population is going to be neurodiverse. So, you or I, Ken, could live there. I call dibs on the corner unit by the water, but, we can work that out later as part of our agreement. But no, it's going to be a beautiful community, and it's going to not only offer to the individuals that live there, but one of the key things is it's going to offer to the community around it. So Springfield Township is going to be able to benefit this. Greater Cincinnati area is going to benefit from this, and the services and the offerings there as well.
And one of the things you mentioned, Kevin, is the sports fields that we're going to have. And I'm so excited about that because I've talked with the Bengals, I've talked with the Reds, and I've talked with the FC Cincinnati Soccer Club, and all of them will be involved in getting those fields done. So it's not only for our use, but again, we're talking about, we want our people that live there out in the community, but we want the community in to where we are as well. And that's facilities where, baseball practices can happen, soccer practices can happen, Pee Wee football can happen, Special Olympics can happen there. So that's going to be an exciting part of it.
It is. That's going to be a big deal. One of the great things we do, live, work, and engage, and one of the things we do great right now, our work program is wonderful, but our engage program is, phenomenal by many measures. And it's very large, and we support over 200 people in that program. And, it's going to give us a hub where we can partner stronger with people that we work with in the community, other organizations, and really take these services to another level. And really, to be honest, Ken, I think we're going to really set a model in Cincinnati, Ohio, that is going to be seen not only throughout the state of Ohio, but in other states. And they're going to want to do this, and they're going to do it as successfully as we are. And I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful story to tell.
I know we've got trivia coming up in a few minutes, so I want to leave everybody with one more story. We're up to 1978 now. And, 77, I thought it was kind of an injury-plagued year for me. And so I was excited to get to the 78 season. And we're playing our last exhibition game, and we're playing in Milwaukee against the Green Bay Packers. And we are winning handily at halftime. And normally, nowadays, the guys don't play much in the last preseason game, a little bit different back in the 70s. And so I started the second half. And the first series, I go to throw, and I catch my hand on a helmet, and I look down, and there's a bone popping through my hand. I said, "Oh, this is not good." And so I went off, and my hand is broken, and go in the locker room, and had it operated on the next day, and 3 screws put in my hand, and missed the first 4 weeks of the season. And we started off 0-4, and a lot of rumors that Bill Johnson, our head coach, was going to be fired. And I loved him to death. And I said, I got to play. And so I went in and told him, I said, cut the cast off my hand on Tuesday. And I tried to practice, and I played on Sunday, and we started off okay, but all of a sudden, I couldn't grip the ball far enough to throw it. And we got beat in San Francisco, and he got fired on the plane on the way home. And I must say, that's the only time I've ever cried for losing a football game, when it cost our head coach his job. But, that takes us kind of at the end of this. And, I want to thank our year-long sponsors that means so much to us: the Schlotman Family Foundation, Key Bank, Belterra Parks. We couldn't proceed and exist without you. And the grant from the Greater Cincinnati Foundation that lets us to kind of continue with these virtual happy hours that we're doing. Please tell us what you think about these. Again, you can go to info@kenandersonalliance.org and kind of let us know. And maybe, we've got 2 more scheduled. I'll tell you about those in a second. Maybe we can continue those on, maybe not on a weekly basis, but, a couple times a month, if you like what we're doing. But next week, as I said, we've got Dan Issel and Doug Flynn. The NBA is postponed. We'll get Dan's thoughts on that. He's also involved in trying to bring an NBA team to Louisville. He'll fill us in on what's going on down there. And Doug Flynn, one of the great guys, played for the Reds. He played for the Mets, some other teams. But as he always tells me, he was the glue that kept the Big Red Machine together. So looking forward to that. And then our last one, we're going to have a virtual dance party. And we got DJ David Kale's going to kind of provide the music for us. We're going to have a good time as we celebrate Cinco de Mayo. I've got my sombrero over here in the corner ready to go for that in a couple weeks. But what's really excited, if you tuned in last week, we were talking to Nick Lachey from 98 Degrees. His brother Drew won Dancing with the Stars. So if we're going to have a virtual dance party, who better to kind of lead us through that? Maybe show us a couple moves is Drew Lachey. Will be with us then. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been a blast. Happy hour is always fun for you. Stay safe. I can't wait to see you again next week. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for joining us. And tonight is a special edition of trivia. If you want to do some Bengals trivia, we've got a 30-question round over on our Facebook Live page. It'll be starting in about 3 minutes. Jump on over there and join us, and it'll be a really good time. We'll see how you guys do with your Bengals trivia tonight. Ken, I encourage you to play. And if you don't come in first place, you have to dance the Macarena at the dance party.
You're in trouble. If I get a dance, everybody's in trouble.
Fair enough.
Like I say, Keystone with Kenny, we're glad that you joined us again tonight. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Good night.